3 spine-chilling true haunting tales revealed, sinister secrets exposed from the cursed shadows. Jennifer stared out of her cracked window, the slumping houses lining her street casting long shadows as the last hint of daylight vanished. Her tiny home, filled with worn toys and faded memories, was supposed to echo laughter, but now brought only silence that crawled under her skin. Alone with her 2 young children, she felt the weight of the darkness growing heavier as night fell, whispering secrets of decay and despair. Creatures of fear danced through her mind: missing children, ghostly figures stalking the alleys, and the eerie tales about Mr. Wallace, her elderly neighbor, whose smile cloaked a sinister history that sent chills down her spine. The whispers crept in, chilling her blood. Her kids huddled close on the rickety couch, wide-eyed, speaking of a faceless figure that lurked just beyond the safety of the street lamp's glow. "Mommy, it watches us," they'd murmur, and her heart would race, panic pinching at her throat. How could she keep them safe when even the sun could not drive the shadows away? The walls of their home felt as if they were inching closer, closing them in, while the outside world whispered of unspeakable horrors hidden behind every rotten facade. One particularly heavy night, after her double shift at the diner, Jennifer came home to find an anonymous note slipped under the door. "Stay away from Mr. Wallace. He's not who you think he is." The ink felt like ink from a dark curse, and dread slithered through her veins. She tried to swallow it down, but her children's fearful whispers calling out from the bedroom echoed too loud and too close. "Mommy, he's here, we see him." They trembled, wide-eyed, under their threadbare blankets, pulling her into a suffocating sea of fear. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Determined to confront this fear, Jennifer formed a bond with Carla, a waitress from the diner who shared equally chilling stories of the neighborhood. Together, they unearthed the chilling tales buried in the crooked histories of their cursed suburb. Whispers spread like fire: nights of torment, strange disappearances, and an age-old curse haunting the very land under their feet. It painted their once vibrant community as a powder keg waiting to explode. As dread clung to her like a second skin, Jennifer found herself drawn back into the web of horror that surrounded them. She no longer just feared the shadows, she feared the people behind them, the neighbors she had waved to at the mailbox or shared stale gossip with over fence lines. The floorboards creaked louder, and the air crackled with a dark electricity. Her heart raced as paranoia took hold. Was the figure her kids spoke of a mere figment or something far more sinister? And then the very nightmare she had feared began to show its face. Doors would open unbidden, soft whispers clawed at her edges, and shadows danced just outside her vision. Each night brought with it an oppressive dread that thickened like fog, suffocating and relentless. Who was watching? Who was hidden beneath the guise of normalcy? Jennifer braced herself for what was to come: a confrontation that could unravel her life or plunge it deeper into darkness. Would she have the courage to face what really lurked in their cursed neighborhood? And when the shadows finally revealed their faces, how would she protect her children from the treachery hidden in plain sight? Jennifer couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. She could almost feel eyes boring into her back as she moved about their cramped living room, straightening toys her children had left scattered about. She glanced at the window, shadows growing thicker as the golden hours slipped into pitch black. A chill crept through the room, whispering warnings she could barely hear. "Mommy?" Her daughter's voice broke through her unease. Lucy was 5, yet the fear in her voice had an age far beyond her years. "What is it, sweetheart?" Jennifer replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "Can we keep the curtains closed? I don't want him to see me." The girl clutched her stuffed bunny tightly, eyes darting toward the window. The child's fear was contagious, clutching at Jennifer's heart with icy fingers. "Of course, "Honey," Jennifer said, pulling the curtains together. She felt a little better, but for how long? In the darkness, her thoughts tangled. Mr. Wallace kept creeping into her mind. That kind, wrinkled face was a mask for something darker, she was sure of it. Stay away from him, the note had warned. But the truth of it twisted like a knife in her gut. What horrors could a man like him hide? That night, after her children were asleep, Jennifer sat up on the couch, trying to summon the courage to investigate further. She needed to confront this fear. Loose floorboards creaked beneath her weight as she stood, stepping carefully toward the front door. With trembling hands, she grabbed her phone, illuminating the darkness with its glow. The sharp sound of footsteps echoed outside, halting Jennifer in her tracks. Her breath caught. She pressed herself against the wall, heart pounding. It could be anyone, just a neighbor taking out the trash or something much worse. A strange gurgling noise caught her attention. The sound came closer, slithering like liquid shadow toward her door. It was here. Hidden in the night. "Mommy?" A soft voice pierced the air, causing her to freeze. It was Jacob, her son, standing groggily at the entrance to the hallway, rubbing his eyes. He seemed so small, so fragile against the darkness that loomed behind him. "Come here, baby," she whispered urgently, her pulse racing. She crouched, beckoning him closer, but a hitch in her throat warned her something was very, very wrong. Suddenly, it felt as if the house was teetering on the edge of something terrible. The door rattled, Jennifer's heart nearly stopped. Shadowy hands clawed at her sanity as she envisioned cold fingers wrapping around her children. "No!" she shouted, rushing to scoop her son into her arms. Last night's chaos had returned. The walls felt as if they were breathing, in and out, whispering secrets she desperately wished to ignore. Then, she saw a silhouette outside, the face someone should know, but the face that filled her with dread. Mr. Wallace, standing there, staring. The moonlight illuminated his features, revealing eyes that weren't just watching, they were consumed by something primal, something otherworldly. "Jennifer," his voice slithered through the door like a serpent. "You should let me in, you have something I want." What he wanted hung like a silent specter between them, her children. The house felt colder. Her instincts screamed to run, to hide. But the feet were heavy, as though the very ground sought to anchor her in despair. "Stay back!" she shouted, but in her heart, she feared her children were the ones in danger, and not just from him. The walls trembled as shadows twisted around their home. And before she could react, the door swung open, as if beckoned by an unseen force. A horrified scream ripped from her throat. Why was the door open? The shadows pooled at the threshold, and with each second, it felt less like a home and more like a trap. Were these whispers and groans really meant for her? Or had they always belonged to him? The darkness stretched toward her, curling like smoke. They moved, alive and sentient, breathing in the chaos filling her veins. "Mommy!" Jacob wailed, as the encompassing night swallowed everything whole. And in that moment of unknowing terror, trapped in an impending nightmare, Jennifer knew she had to move. She had to protect her children, to face whatever malevolence awaited. But as she turned to flee, a shadow detached itself from the darkness, closer than she could have imagined, its icy fingers lingering over her shoulder. What had she unleashed? What were the shadows waiting to reveal? In the flickering darkness, Jennifer was barely ready for what was about to unfold. Jennifer felt the icy fingers draw back, but the shadows were relentless, dragging along her spine, whispering dread into her ear. Heart slamming against her ribcage, she tightened her grip around Jacob. His small body felt like a fragile lifeline amidst the encroaching darkness. "Mommy, I'm scared," he whimpered, his wide eyes glistening with tears. She forced a smile, doing her best to shield him from the terror growing around them. "We're going to be okay," she lied, her voice trembling. The front door swung open completely, revealing Mr. Wallace's silhouette half hidden by the thick haze of shadows. The warm light of her living room flickered behind him, creating a stark contrast that chilled her further. "I just want to talk, Jennifer," he hissed, his voice echoing like a soft chant in the whispering dark. "No." She turned on her heels, rushing to the back of the house, the adrenaline coursing through her veins. She could feel the shadows curling around her, playful yet menacing like a child's game turned sinister. "Mommy!" Jacob cried again, fear wrapped tightly around every syllable. "We'll hide," Jennifer insisted, guiding her son toward the closet under the stairs. It was cramped but familiar, the scent of long-forgotten shoes and dust settling around them like a protective shield. She hoped the darkness there would smother the other darkness creeping in. Footsteps echoed through the house, heavier and more deliberate. She could hear Mr. Wallace's voice whispering now, an incoherent murmur that seemed to coil around the air. "Jennifer, let me in." As the door of their haven creaked open behind them, shadows slushed and writhed, as if alive. They beckoned, calling with an ancient, eerie familiarity. The closet trembled as she held Jacob close, blocking the light spilling in from the doorway with her body. "Don't make a sound," she instructed softly, and for a moment, they both held their breath. Seconds felt like hours as they sat beneath the stairs, waiting, praying he would go away. Then, the murmuring intensified, a cacophony of whispers swirling together like a chorus of agony. "You are not alone," they cooed, "you've called us here, we can see you." The shadows around them morphed, deepening until the darkness became suffocating. Fear gripped her tighter than the cold that slithered across her skin. Jennifer's mind raced. The note had warned her, it was beginning to make sense. Mr. Wallace wasn't just a man, he was a harbinger, a conduit for something waiting beyond the veil. Suddenly, Jacob's soft hiccup sliced through the tense silence, his fear spilling into the dark like a beacon. "Mommy," he whispered again, but this time, it sounded different. The air was thick, buzzing with malevolence. She felt the chill wrap around her heart. "Stay quiet, baby," she murmured, but an undeniable sense of dread lodged a shard of panic deep in her chest. Then came the sound of shuffling, then scratching. Something outside the closet pushed at the door slowly, testing, probing like a predator savoring the chase. The shadows shivered and twisted, swarming around the edges of the closet, filtering in like liquid night. Jennifer squeezed her son, and in that rare moment of clarity, she realized the shadows weren't here for just her children, they were feeding off their fears, thriving in their vulnerability. "Mommy!" Jacob squeaked again, his breath hot on her neck. That's when they both heard it. A voice, the voice of Mr. Wallace, whispering not to her but through the shadows. "You should have listened, they're mine now." Instinct kicked in. Clenching her teeth, she opened the closet door just enough to peek out into the murky light. There, among swirling shadows, stood Mr. Wallace, no longer just a man, but a silhouette of pure dread, forming and reforming, calling to them like a dreadful incantation. With a rush of adrenaline, she knew what she had to do. "Run!" she shouted, pushing her son ahead of her, plunging into the darkness beyond the confines of their hiding space. Shadows clung like ice against her skin, but she fought against their hold, pulling Jacob in front of her as she darted toward the back door, praying it would still be a way out. But just as they neared the door, everything went dark. A chill wrapped around them, tightening its grip. And the last thing she heard before everything swirled in insatiable chaos was that soft, haunting voice, "You cannot escape what had awakened in the night." What horrors had they unleashed by ignoring the shadows? Jennifer didn't yet know the true nightmare that awaited them. The darkness was absolute. It suffocated. Jennifer felt it sliding over her skin, a frigid blanket that numbed her senses. She squeezed Jacob's hand harder, feeling his tiny fingers tremble in hers. They had to get out. They had to. A cold laugh echoed through the void. It reverberated in her bones, making her stomach churn. "You think you can escape?" The voice swirled around them, wrapping tighter, like the constriction of a serpent preparing to strike. It was Mr. Wallace, but it sounded different. Twisted. "Mommy, I can't see." Jacob cried out, fear spilling from his little voice. She wanted to comfort him, but how could she? What comfort was there in total blackness? "Stay close to me," she whispered. The silence seemed to stretch, each heartbeat pounding in her ears. They moved slowly, uncertain, trying to feel their way through the oppressive void. But suddenly, a flicker of light appeared, a faint glow, a distant ember. Hope ignited in her chest, propelling her forward. "This way." As they stumbled toward the light, shadows clawed at them, grasping at their clothes, pulling them back into the darkness. Jennifer felt their cold fingers slip through her hair, grasping her heart with icy dread. She yanked Jacob closer, their movements frantic, then another voice joined the chorus, a child's voice, soft and sweet. "Come play with us," it lured, a melody dripping with malice. "No. We don't want to play," Jennifer shouted, pushing through the shadows, fighting against their weight like swimming through a thick fog. She forced her thoughts to remain focused, determined to shake off the panic threatening to overwhelm her. Another surge of light brightened the smothering darkness, revealing figures shifting at the edges, children with hollow eyes and twisted smiles, their laughter a chilling echo. They pointed at Jacob, beckoning him closer, drawn to the pulsing energy that the shadows craved. "Mommy!" Jacob screamed, tugging at her, but the lights were mesmerizing. She could feel their pull. The shadows thrashed around them, becoming more frantic, angry that their prey was resisting. "Run, Jacob! Don't look at them!" she yelled, dragging him past the spectral children, desperate to shield her child from their insistent call. The light ahead expanded, a door, a way out. It shimmered like a mirage, almost too beautiful against the sinister backdrop. But the shadows howled in rage. They lunged, tendrils of darkness swarming, wrapping around her ankles and clawing at her arms. "Let me go!" she screamed, kicking and thrashing, the weight of the darkness pressing on her throat. "Mommy, help me!" Jacob cried, his voice scratched and frantic. The door grew closer. The ghostly laughter faded into a chaotic symphony of roars and whispers, drowning out her resolve. She could feel the shadows clawing for him, trying to pull her child away. With every ounce of strength, she lunged forward, breaking free from the grip of the shadows just as she gasped, "Hold on!" A scream erupted from the abyss behind them as they burst through the door, slamming it shut. Panting, she stumbled into a bright room, the whirling chaos of shadows silencing instantly. But the relief was short-lived. The door whined ominously, rattling as something outside pressed against it. "What was that?" Jacob whimpered, eyes wide as he clutched tightly to her leg. "I don't know," she began, glancing hurriedly around the room. The bright walls felt surreal, comforting yet foreign. Was it truly sanctuary, or just a thin veil hiding another nightmare? The door shuddered, a heavy weight crashing against it, the shadows screeching on the other side. "They know we're here." Jennifer's heart sank, and the walls felt like they might close in on her, suffocating her once more. She needed a plan, but dark tendrils sometimes came disguised in cozy corners, shadows creeping back to claw at their sanity. As the door creaked with each rattle, she noticed something scrawled on the wall, barely visible in the sterile light, a disturbing sigil, pulsing with a throbbing darkness of its own. "Mommy, what does it mean?" The grip of dread tightened around her heart. "What did we step into, Jacob?" A deep, resounding laughter echoed again from beyond the door, promising that this was far from over. What had awakened, and would it consume them whole? Jennifer's breath came in shallow gasps. The pulse of the sigil on the wall seemed to quicken with her heartbeat, each throb a whisper of something malevolent lurking just out of sight. She could feel Jacob's little body trembling against her leg, and though the bright room offered a sense of safety, fear didn't let go of her throat. "Mommy, make it stop," Jacob pleaded, eyes fixed on the door, anticipating the impending doom behind it. As the laughter continued, a voice, deeper and smoother than Mr. Wallace's, slithered through the cracks. "You can't hide from me, sweet girl. I know you're here. I can smell your fear." The walls vibrated, and Jennifer felt the very foundation of their brief sanctuary ripple beneath her. Panic surged through her, a primal instinct clawing for escape. She spun around, looking for a way out. A window, anything that could let them flee this place. But the space was small and devoid of exits. The only features were the pulsating sigil and the dreadful door that threatened to shatter with each violent slam from whatever hid in the shadows outside. "Jacob, we need to." Her voice trembled, barely above a whisper, when a sudden crash reverberated from the door, rattling the hinges violently. It felt like a callous hand trying to pry them open, desperate and relentless. "Mommy. Please." Jacob clung to her, the terror in his eyes mirroring hers. She wrapped her arms around him, shielding him from the impending nightmare that felt more monumental by the second. It was as if the air turned thick, laden with expectancy, pulling her downward. Then, with a low, echoing growl, the door cracked open just a little. Panic seized her heart. The shadows that had once been a menacing backdrop now spilled in like dark ink, eager to engulf them both. "Run!" Jennifer screamed, pulling Jacob with her. They darted away from the door, their footsteps echoing on the cold floor. The laughter grew louder, mocking, intertwining with guttural whispers of things that existed just beyond the edge of human comprehension. Despair clawed at her thoughts. Where to run? What to do? She turned around, searching desperately for an escape. To her left, the pulsating sigil caught her eye once more. It flickered violently, almost summoning her. What did it mean? Instinct screamed at her to avoid it, yet something deep within begged her to touch it. Perhaps it was a way out, a key to understanding. The door creaked wider, shadows surging in with the darkness rolling like waves. "Don't touch it!" Jacob shrieked, pulling her back. She hesitated, dreading that familiar suffocating darkness. But a flicker of intuition surged through her. Maybe it was their only chance. "Just hold on to me," she urged, stepping closer to the sigil. As she reached out, her fingers brushing against its cold surface, the room shifted. The laughter and whispers faded to a dull hum, and the darkness retreated slightly, as if affected by her touch. But that faint dialing down of terror was accompanied by another feeling. A pull. A tugging at her very essence. "Mommy? What is happening?" Jacob whispered. The sigil blazed to life, lighting the room in an eerie glow. Images flashed within its depths, faces, places, and screams. "Don't look at it!" Jennifer shouted, trying to shield Jacob's eyes, but it was too late. The spectral children's faces filled his gaze, beckoning him, their twisted smiles inching closer and closer. "I think they're calling me," he said, mesmerized. "No. You have to fight it, Jacob." Panic flooded her as she pulled him away, but the darkness gripped her tightly, trying to drag him toward that damned sigil. With every ounce of strength, she yanked him back and felt the shadows shift, their grip faltering around them. But in that moment, Jennifer realized they were no longer just fighting for escape, they were battling for Jacob's very soul. The sigil pulsed harder, its warmth wrapping around her heart like a vice while the door behind them continued to quake. "Mommy!" A blinding flash erupted from the sigil just as a harsh scream echoed from outside. The shadows recoiled in horror, and suddenly, the door flew open. Whatever malevolence lurked outside was now rushing in, and they were caught in the eye of the storm. "Grab my hand, Jacob. We're getting out of here." But just as she lunged forward, the ground beneath them shifted, pulling them toward the sigil with terrifying force, leaving them teetering on the edge of darkness. Would she lose Jacob to this madness, or was the sigil their only hope? The room spun wildly around them, the laughter returning, cruel and taunting. Come play with us. How far could they fall? And what awaited them on the other side? The sensation of falling felt endless, a horrifying spiral into a pitch-black void that yearned to swallow them whole. Jennifer's heart raced while she held Jacob tight, her grip nearly white-knuckled. All around them, the sigil throbbed violently, as if it were alive and trying to pull them into its heart. "Mommy!" Jacob's small voice cracked, fear lacing every syllable. I can't hold on. Just hold on, Jacob. Please. Her voice wavered, strained with desperation. She could feel the drag of unseen tendrils wrapping around her ankles, snaking up her legs, pulling her back into the darkness. The ground gave way, and with a sickening jolt, their world shifted again. They landed on a different surface, not cold tiles, but something soft and yielding, like grass soaked with rain. Somewhere nearby, whispers tangled in the air, a cacophony of upset spirits, echoing cries, and shaky laughter that sent shivers down her spine. Where are we? Jacob asked, his voice trembling as he looked around. Instead of walls, they were surrounded by towering trees that twisted and gnarled, bark like cracked skin stretching toward a leaden sky. It felt wrong, sinister. Stay close, she warned, her instincts screaming at her to run, to hide. The trees swayed, moving almost as if they had a mind of their own. And within the shifting shadows, she felt eyes watching, hungry and cold. Mommy, I see them, Jacob whispered, pointing toward a small clearing just ahead, where flickers of light danced in the dark underbrush. I don't like this, Jennifer murmured, hesitating. The urge to flee overcame her. But curiosity pulled her, too. What if it was something that could help them escape this nightmare? Let us go, she said, urging Jacob along. They stepped cautiously into the clearing, heartbeats merging into the rhythm of the night. The lights grew brighter, weaving together like tiny stars at their fingertips. In the center of the clearing lay a scattering of dolls, old, cracked porcelain faces glinting in the dim light. Some stared blankly ahead, while others seemed to grin wickedly, their painted mouths twisted into unnatural smiles. Mommy, look, Jacob said, stepping closer to one of the dolls. It was a girl, with sunken eyes and hair with the color of ash. She looked sad. Before Jennifer could protest, Jacob reached out to touch it. Jacob, no. She surged forward, but it was too late. The moment his fingers met the doll's cold surface, a shrill wail tore through the air, a voice rising through the trees like wind gone mad. The ground shook beneath them, and the lights pulsated as if they were alive. Welcome to our playtime, they sang, a chorus of lost children echoing from every shadow. The laughter returned, mocking and sharp as splintered glass. Jennifer snatched Jacob away, they stumbled back, but the ground quivered beneath them like a restless beast. Run! She shouted, pulling him toward the tree line, fleeing from the dancing lights and the sinister voices. But the trees closed in, their gnarled branches reaching out as if trying to clutch her. The separation of their path threatened to engulf them. She felt her resolve wavering. Just as she turned, the air thick with looming dread, a figure emerged from the shadows, a tall silhouette, wrapped in darkness, face obscured. In that dim glow, all she could see were its eyes, two burning orbs of malevolence. Why do you resist? It rasped, voice rich with distortion, echoing through the clearing. What do you want? Jennifer screamed, the fear coiling tighter around her throat, but it only tilted its head, an inhuman grin stretching across its features. To play forever. The ground shook again, and they were back at the edge of the sigil, the initial corridor of fear. Chaos surged in all directions, a desperate choice binding their fates. Jacob. The figure lunged forward, and she had to act fast. But their escape was cut off as otherworldly laughter erupted again, a sound no living person should hear, thick with hungry intent. Desperation gripped Jennifer's heart. What if the sigil was just the beginning, a cruel gateway to another nightmare? As shadows twisted and turned, she felt a surge of chaos around them, the dark figure reaching for them, insatiable. Run! She pulled Jacob close, racing into the oppressive darkness. But was the safety they sought waiting for them on the other side, or perhaps something far worse awaited? What lay beyond the threshold of the sigil? The world around Jennifer twisted in on itself as the shadows pressed closer, a suffocating blackness that seemed to breathe. The trees moaned, their branches creaking in a language older than fear itself. With each frantic step, Jennifer felt the ground shift beneath her feet, as if the earth itself was alive and conscious, shifting to thwart their escape. "Don't look back, Mom," Jacob pleaded, his voice a tiny whisper against the mounting terror. She glanced at him, his wide eyes glistening with unshed tears, and her heart cracked further. They dashed deeper into the forest, the silhouette still looming behind them, its fiery gaze unwavering. Every pulse of darkness clung to them, and with each heartbeat, the laughter grew louder, a chorus of playful taunts that mocked their fear. "Why don't they just play?" Jacob's words echoed in her mind. She knew he didn't mean the way children do. "Because they want more than play," Jennifer breathed, her throat dry. "They want us." Just as she thought they might burst forth from the confines of the trees, the ground split beneath her. Panic seized her as she stumbled, falling into a deep pit, dragging Jacob with her. They landed hard on damp soil, surrounded by darkness that felt alive, pulsating with a chilling energy. "Jacob, are you hurt?" Her voice trembled as she struggled to sit up, brushing dirt from his face. "I'm okay," he mumbled, but the quiver in his voice said otherwise. They huddled together, the stench of decay wrapping around them like an unseen fog. The whispers returned, more frantic now, swirling in the confined space. "Find us, play with us," they wept, voices layered with pain and abandoned hopes. A flicker of light pierced the blackness, tired flames wavering from a dying lantern a few feet ahead. It illuminated the pit just enough for her to see shapes moving against the walls. Jennifer's heart sank further. Slowly, she brought her shaking hands to shield Jacob's eyes. "Oh God, it's a grave," she gasped, petrified. The air felt thick, heavy with sorrow and dread. As she scanned the edges of the small pit, an array of dolls emerged, their broken forms sprawled like lost souls. One was missing a head, another had a single eye staring blindly into the abyss. "We must get out," Jennifer urged, gripping Jacob's arm. But the dolls began to shake, rattling in a disjointed rhythm. The lantern's light faded, replaced by an ominous glow that pulsed with the echoes of countless lost children. "Only playful souls can escape," they sang, their voices intertwining, chilling in their innocence. Just then, a harsh gust of wind howled through the pit. The oppressive weight of the darkness began to lift, but the ground turned to sludge. It clung to their legs, dragging them back down, threatening to swallow them whole. "Mom!" Jacob screamed, panic flaring as the voices intensified. "I can't breathe. Hold on to me, Jacob. Just hold on." Her grip tightened, the fear of losing him far more potent than her own dread. Together, they fought against the grasp of cold earth, inching toward the light, only to have shadows surge forward, clawing at them. "More, we want more," the whispers chanted, and she felt the air shift around them again, something sinister slithering, uncoiling behind like a long-forgotten nightmare. Desperately, she pushed forward, falling between decomposed relics, the floor buckling beneath their weight. She felt a heartbeat. Truth, this could be the end if they didn't escape soon. A thundering crash echoed as the pit echoed around them, something enormous advancing. Jennifer glanced back and felt the chill of 100 eyes on her. Without thinking, she clutched Jacob tighter, barreling toward the dim light ahead, fear and determination both surging through her. The language of dread bore down as they closed in on the exit. Would they be free? Would the dolls let them go? Or was their escape just another taunt before eternal play began? As the darkness howled, an ear-piercing screech tore through the air. Jennifer pushed harder, breath hitching. Could they make it out alive, or would this be another tale to join the chorus of anguished spirits beneath the earth? The lantern flickered one last time, illuminating a pathway, but where would it lead? The dim light flickered, casting long shadows that danced wildly across the walls of the pit as if the puppets were alive. Jennifer and Jacob edged forward, the suffocating sludge gnawing at their ankles, every movement a battle against the grasp of despair. "Mom, I'm scared," Jacob's whisper trembled in the air, slicing through the cacophony of eerie laughter and soft, childlike pleas that surrounded them. The dolls, a grotesque mockery of childhood innocence, vied for their attention, their cracked and marred faces warped in expressions of sorrow and betrayal. "Me too, sweetheart. But we can't give up," Jennifer urged, squeezing his small hand. The glow ahead brightened momentarily, drawing her forward like a moth to a flame. It was now or never. She felt the cold breath of dread on her neck. It would be so easy to succumb to the darkness, to let it pull them into an endless cycle of despair. "Find us, play with us," the whispers grew louder, swirling around her like a chilling wind. Each plea for companionship only amplified Jennifer's desperation. "No!" she shouted, her voice breaking through the chant. "We don't want to play." As they plunged further, the sensation of being watched wrapped around them like a smothering blanket. The pit walls seemed to pulse in rhythm to the whispers, alive with malevolent intent. Jagged roots from the decaying trees above breached the walls like skeletal fingers, beckoning them. "Keep moving!" Jennifer yelled, her heart pounding a wild tempo in her chest. They stumbled forward, her eyes frantic as they searched for an escape. Just ahead, the light danced playful and deceitful. It flickered, then drew back like a cruel tease. Above the pit, a sudden rumbling echoed, as if the forest itself protested their presence. "What's happening?" Jacob shrieked, clutching her tighter, his body trembling with terror. Before she could respond, a chilling rumble split the air, and a shadow fell over them. The massive silhouette of their pursuer loomed above the pit, dark and foreboding. Jennifer's breath caught in her throat. This was no longer a game, their escape was being mocked. "Mom!" Jacob cried as darkness poured into the pit, oozing like ink. It wrapped around them, creeping slowly, suffocating in its brutality. "No! We will not be taken." A surge of rage and determination fueled her. She pulled Jacob closer, steeling herself against the consuming dread, and charged toward the faint light. The howling intensified, the dolls now screaming in unison, their cries a symphony of despair. With each stride, the ground beneath her threatened to collapse, giving way to unseen horrors. As she neared the glowing exit, the push and pull of the shadows grew crazed. The dolls slammed against the pit walls, their crackling voices rising to a frenzied pitch. "Stay with me!" Jennifer roared against the darkness, thrusting herself forward with every ounce of strength left. The light flickered, pulses of hope against encroaching despair. Was it the way out? Or yet another trick? Then, in the midst of all that chaos, a silence sliced through like a knife. The voices vanished, replaced by an unsettling stillness that reverberated in her bones. She paused, heart racing, instinctively glancing back. The pit was no longer their only concern. "Mom, I don't like this," Jacob whimpered. Above them, the creature seemed to loom larger, twisting with the shadows, its eyes two smoldering coals searching their souls. Jennifer felt it creeping closer, the air thickening with its malice. The knowing in her gut gripped her like an iron vice. Could they escape? Or would they join the chorus of lost souls, forever entrapped in the cruel games of forgotten play? With one final heave, Jennifer lunged toward the light. "Grab my hand." But as they reached for salvation, the grip of the ground loosened. A final shriek from the shadows echoed, merging with the sound of her own heart hammering in her chest. Would they emerge into freedom or find themselves swallowed whole by the malevolence lurking just beyond the light? As hope flickered, a chilling revelation curled in her mind: what would happen if they succeeded? With an agonizing thud, the ground churned. The world around them began to unravel. Jennifer and Jacob felt the ground give way beneath them, the soft earth shifting like quicksand. They were falling into a darkness that seemed to inhale everything around it, a sucking void that swallowed their screams and their hope whole. Plunging through the inky blackness, time warped, seconds felt like hours. Jennifer clutched Jacob tighter, the panic in her chest tightening like a vice. Had the light been false? Had they only been chasing a flicker of sanity in unimaginable terror? Suddenly, they landed with a thud, the impact knocking the breath from them. Jennifer blinked against the dim glow, struggling to focus. They lay in a new chamber, the air thick and stagnant. The walls glistened with a damp sheen, the echo of their landing cutting sharply into the quiet. Mom Jacob's voice shook, almost drowned by the echoing drip of water somewhere nearby. "Where are we?" Jennifer pushed up on her elbows, surveying their surroundings. The chamber was larger, but overshadowed by the oppressive darkness. And then she saw it, the dolls. Not just the remnants of childhood innocence but hundreds, maybe thousands, staring back at them with glassy eyes, their mouths hanging open in silent wails. The ambient whispers started again, swirling around them. "Play with us, stay with us," they all sang in grotesque unison, a twisted lullaby that sent shivers cascading down her spine. "No. We don't want to play," Jennifer shouted again, trying to drown out their voices. But the reminder of how close they had come to salvation clawed at her mind. It was cruel to be this close and still unable to reach freedom. Just then, the faint glow that had first drawn her in flickered again, pulsating from a corner of the chamber like a heartbeat. Shivering, she turned toward it. "We have to move," she commanded, pushing herself and Jacob up onto their feet. The moment they stood, the dolls grew restless. They shifted in place, their faces contorting in a myriad of expressions. Hope. Rage. A deep-rooted anger. One by one, the dolls began to inch forward, their wooden legs scuffing against the floor, an eerie duet of whispers escalating. "Help us, set us free," the voices bled together, sad and angry, mixing like a fog that enveloped Jennifer and Jacob. They were closing in. "Run!" Jennifer yelled, dragging Jacob with her toward the light. They had to reach it. If it was a way out, if it was indeed real, it was their only chance. As they stumbled toward the glow, Jennifer could feel the heat building behind them, the cold dread crashing against her back like a wave. The dolls were moving quicker now, their movements becoming jerky, almost mechanical, but fueled by a desperation that made them far more terrifying. "Mom, I can't," Jacob cried, his little legs faltering. "Keep going," she urged, feeling her heart thud painfully against her ribcage. They were almost there. She could feel the light penetrating her skin, warming her, promising freedom. From behind them, the chorus of shrieks erupted. The dolls began to leap, their doll-like bodies soaring through the air toward them, twisting and falling like ragged little paper dolls. "Run! Don't look back!" They lunged into the brightness just as the first of them flew past, a mere breath away. Jennifer's hand found something solid. But was it the exit? She paused just long enough to look back. The chamber behind them pulsed wildly. The dolls pressed forward, their eyes filled with rage, mouths stretched into terrifyingly wide grins. They were going to be devoured, lost forever if Jennifer gasped. She realized the light was pulling her in. It wasn't a way out, it was an endless abyss of light and shade, slipping her into the very heart of the darkness around them. "Mom! Help!" Jacob's cry mingled with the fading screams, a shrill note that twisted her gut. It would take everything she had to resist the pull, to fight against the darkness, to save them both. But could she? Did she have what it took to confront the shadows that feasted on their fears? And then the revelation struck her like a gut punch. Could they trust the light, or would it consume them too? In that moment, a new voice rose from the depths, echoing with unmistakable familiarity. Jennifer, she froze. It was a voice she knew all too well. One she thought she had lost forever. "Help me." What would she sacrifice to save someone she once loved? And would that sacrifice ensure their survival or seal their doom? The air rattled with echoes of confusion and dread, and Jennifer's heart raced as the twisted whispers surged around her. "No! Stay back!" she shouted, forcefully clutching Jacob's hand. The light had shifted, it was no longer welcoming, it felt like a portal, a bright deception luring them into a deeper abyss. "Mom!" Jacob cried, his voice trembling. The familiar voice, haunting yet sweet, tugged at her heart. But it was a trap. Her instincts screamed for her to run, to pull her son back. She had learned that lesson too late before. Suddenly, the dolls surged closer, their porcelain faces twisted with fervor. "Help us! No more darkness!" they cried, a cacophony of need and despair. Each word cut through her resolve like a razor. Beneath her emotions, the depths of her memory stirred a long-lost sibling she once adored, a soul taken too soon. "Jacob, I need you to listen closely," she said, her voice trembling. "We're not helping them." She could see the wounded yearning in Jacob's eyes as he looked up at her. Yet beneath that, she also saw the brave determination to stay beside her. Lightning flickered in her mind, the sigil back at the other side, the power it thrummed with. If it could contain the shadows before, perhaps she could use it again. "We need to get to the glow. It might be our chance." Keeping her grip tight, they moved forward, pushing through the throng of dancing darkness. As they fought for every inch toward the glow, the dolls mocked them, their voices rising with sinister laughter. "You cannot escape the game. Join us." Jennifer felt the surge of shadows wrapping around her ankles, pulling her down as if trying to drag her into an endless night. With grit, she pulled Jacob closer, forcing her way through their thrumming despair. She believed in them. They could escape together. Emerging closer to the door of light, an ethereal glow enveloped them in warmth. "Mom, I can't," Jacob whimpered, his small feet faltering. In her heart, she felt his fear anchor her. "Please don't let go. Not ever. No." She yelled against the pursuing dark. "I swear. We will not lose this fight." With one final push, she hoisted Jacob into her arms and thrust forward, crashing against the luminous glow. And in that moment, she fought against the weight of shadows pressing into them, wills tangling in a vicious struggle. "Remember me." A haunting plea escaped her lips. "I swear I'll fight for you. I will not let you drown in this darkness." Just as vaporizing darkness threatened to engulf them both, light enveloped them entirely. They slashed through the shimmering barrier, and a wild rush of colors flooded their senses. The sensation was like being reborn, pure, unsullied, everything they craved. With a gasp, they landed in a clearing. Broken, worn but alive, everything felt quiet again. The towering trees loomed nearby, parts of their familiar world glistening in the moonlight. And yet something was different. "Mom? Are we safe?" Jacob whispered, his breath shuddered with a new yet lingering fear. Jennifer looked at him, and the weight of the world seemed to lift off her shoulders. "We are. We made it." Looking back, she spotted the shimmering edge of the nightmare still lurking in the darkness, all too familiar echoes whispering from the twisted roots. But they were alive. They had broken the cycle. The dolls, the shadows, all the teasing voices in the darkness were now confined, banished to a place where she hoped no one would ever hear them again. They took a few steps, hesitating as the reality of what they escaped seeped in. She looked down at Jacob. Meeting his gaze, they shared a moment of wholesomeness, a memory worthy of laughter instead of despair. "Please, don't let us go back. Ever," Jacob pleaded, unaware of the courage swelling in his small frame. "I promise," she vowed, tightening her hold on him, the warmth of their bond an unbreakable thread. Together, they walked toward dawn's embrace, stepping further away from the horrors they had faced. With each step, the laughter faded into whispers of the past, shadows edging further back as they reclaimed their world, their lives. As the sun broke above the horizon, casting golden light over everything, they knew they were forever changed. The scars of their journey would remain, but in this moment of triumph, there was hope, a new beginning. Jennifer and Jacob were free. Now, this is your moment. You need to subscribe to the channel immediately so you don't miss out on more exclusive stories like this one. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. What did you think about their journey? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. True fans know the power of supporting the channel through these actions, so let's do this together.